Okay, let's dive right into this. As high-performing executives and professionals, you're incredibly accustomed to setting quarterly goals, scaling business operations, and tracking highly precise KPIs for your company. But when it comes to personal wealth, well, there's a really dangerous misconception out there. Most people think becoming financially free is like flipping a switch, right? Like one day you're grinding away and the next day you hit the lottery or you land some massive buyout and bam, suddenly you're rich. Look, that is a massive lie. Financial freedom is not some sudden chaotic event. It's actually a highly quantifiable, structured business plan for your personal wealth. So today in this explainer, we're going to treat your personal finances with the exact same rigor that you apply to your corporate strategies. We're pulling back the curtain on a strategic escalation framework, looking at the exact 4 stages of financial freedom. And we need to start by looking at a pretty stark data-driven reality here. Over 70% of the global population is completely trapped in what we call the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. That means 70% of people are entirely dependent on active income just to survive the month. Now, you might have a high executive salary, but if your lifestyle scales perfectly with your income, you're still in this 70%. You're simply a high-paid survivor. If you don't know exactly which stage of the wealth-building process you're currently operating in, you literally cannot map out a strategic path to the next level. So here is our agenda for this explainer. 1. Financial survival. 2. Financial stability. 3. Financial security. And 4. Absolute freedom. Starting off with Stage 1, Financial Survival. Subtitle, The Paycheck-to-Paycheck Trap. This is where your operating expenses are either equal to or completely exceeding your revenue. If your salary hits your account on the 1st of the month and it's completely depleted by the 25th, yeah, you're in Stage 1. Living here is just mentally exhausting because you're constantly operating out of fear. But to engineer a breakout from this stage, you don't need some complex, high-level investment strategy yet. You really only need to focus on 2 aggressive corporate-style actions. First up, track and cut. You absolutely must execute a ruthless personal cash flow audit. Pull your bank statements and look at the actual data. Every single unnecessary subscription, those impulse luxury purchases, or that expensive daily dining habit, they need to be paused. Treat it exactly like Q4 budget cuts. Ruthless, but entirely necessary. Second, the $1,000 buffer. Your singular objective right now is to scrape together and secure a $1,000 immediate liquidity buffer. Think of this tiny emergency buffer as your firewall. It ensures that a minor emergency, like blowing out a tire, doesn't force you to take on toxic, high-interest bad debt. Moving right along to Stage 2, Financial Stability. Subtitle, The Power of the Emergency Fund. Okay, so in this stage, you can finally breathe a little bit. Your basic liabilities are being paid on time, you aren't sweating over next week's grocery bill, and your cash flow is steady. But there's a catch. You are still actively trading your highly valuable time for money. If you stop working, that revenue pipeline eventually dries up. So to permanently clear Stage 2, you need strict exit criteria. Here's your formula. Calculate your exact baseline survival costs. We're talking rent, food, utility bills, basic insurance. Then multiply that baseline metric by 6 to reach your target KPI. That gives you a liquid, secure, true emergency fund covering 6 full months of expenses. Let's provide a concrete anchor for this, just to put it into perspective. If your baseline survival cost is $2,000 a month, hitting this specific $12,000 KPI fundamentally shifts your entire psychology. Why? Well, because when you have a 6-month cushion sitting safely in cash, you are no longer operating out of desperation. You simply won't tolerate a toxic corporate culture or a boss who thinks synergy is a personality trait just because you need that next paycheck. This $12,000 metric gives you the absolute leverage to pivot careers, go learn a high-ticket digital skill, or strategize your next major financial move without even an ounce of panic. Next up is Stage 3, Financial Security. Subtitle, The Birth of Passive Income. Now we're talking. This is a massive inflection point where you transition from merely saving cash defensively to actively deploying it as a serious wealth builder. You are literally becoming an asset manager of your own life. Notice the dichotomy here between active labor and passive asset income. The whole goal of Stage 3 is moving away from trading your time. Instead, your dividend portfolios, your digital assets, and your automated channels step in to take over the heavy lifting. Your capital is now going to work for you, directly paying for your rent and your groceries without you having to lift a finger. Let's look at the math again. Say your basic survival costs are $1,500 a month. In stage 3, your primary objective is to ensure your assets consistently generate that exact $1,500 metric on automated autopilot. Once your assets yield that baseline requirement, guess what? Daily active work becomes completely optional. You don't have to wake up for that brutal 7 a.m. board meeting just to keep the lights on. If you want to take a month off to travel or focus entirely on building a brand new business venture, your basic survival is totally guaranteed by your money. You have successfully shifted the burden from your own shoulders right onto your capital, which allows us to escalate to the final peak, stage 4, absolute financial freedom. Subtitle, the ultimate goal. In this stage, your passive revenue streams scale far, far beyond just covering your basic survival needs. They expand to completely fund your premium, unrestricted dream lifestyle. We're talking about first-class travel, acquiring your dream assets, investing heavily in major business ventures, or even making massive philanthropic contributions. Your automated surplus wealth is so significant that you simply never have to look at a price tag again. But the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the true ROI of this entire framework. Money becomes a highly effective tool that buys back the most valuable asset in the universe: total control over your time. You and only you decide exactly when you work, exactly who you work with, and what legacy projects you pursue. But look, let's be incredibly clear about what it actually takes to get here. Reaching this peak requires treating your personal finances with strict, corporate-level discipline. It takes years of deep focus. It requires actively diversifying and building multiple income streams so you have redundancies in place. And perhaps most importantly for this executive audience right here, absolutely zero lifestyle inflation during your growth phases. Every time you get a massive bonus or a promotion, it doesn't go toward a more expensive car. It gets deployed into assets. Every single sacrifice you make today is literally a down payment on this ultimate level of freedom. So I want to conclude this explainer by throwing a challenge your way. Which stage are you in right now? Honestly. Because you cannot skip stages. If you're in stage 1, do not waste a single minute dreaming about stage 4 luxuries. You need to focus entirely on auditing your expenses and building that first liquidity buffer. If you're in stage 2, lock in that 6-month fund and start aggressively building your digital and passive assets. Pinpoint exactly where you are and decide your exact next strategic move today. Because think about it, if your company's revenue stopped tomorrow, you would definitely have a crisis plan ready, right? Well, if your personal paycheck stopped tomorrow, how long would your personal empire actually survive?